like, where are they? Alrighty, so let's get rocking and rolling here with this. We got a lot going on today. Look at that. My 29th birthday again. Happy birthday, Amanda. Here in a couple days. Hey. Okay. Scooch on from that. All right, Becky.
29, yeah, me too.
Because I'm gonna like use all of my voice today during our fantastic lunch and learn. Hopefully all of you guys are coming.
Yes.
All of
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I do have one little exciting thing is that we do have something that's coming. And you're gonna have to come to the lunch and learn to learn a little bit about it. But on the 27th of March, Cal HFA has announced something new and exciting that is coming that you guys will have to learn about. Okay, like I said, I'm just giving you a little teaser. But it's something new and it's something that's gonna be kind of cool, that's gonna be helping our buyers on the 27th of March. LHFA. So I'm just saying, I'm gonna say that, but you have to come.
You need to be quick. You need to be quick about it because
I think it's gonna have to be quick.
it's gonna have to be a quick thing. So if you don't know about it,
I don't know how much money they're gonna have to
Right.
do it. I don't know how it's gonna go, but yes.
Yes.
And it's California, obviously, because it's LHFA, but yeah.
but it's pretty freaking sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was, yeah.
So if you don't know about it, you kind of now you're like, now I want to know, right?
Yeah,
Like
so you
now
have
I
to
want to
come
know what
to
it's about. Because if not, then I'm gonna be like, I know more than you know, and
I'm the one to learn. Yes.
lunch and learn. So are you talking about it at the lunch and learn?
Yeah.
Hey,
Well, as much as I know. At the luncheon, or excuse me, on the 27th, there's gonna be more information that's delivered.
Okay.
On the 27th, they've given us like, kind of like what I was trying to do.
Right.
They've given us a little bit of information.
But they gotta figure it out. It sounds like they're scrambling.
Yeah, well, they were
Yeah.
given a grant, but yeah, I'm gonna give you a little bit, but they were given a huge grant, and so now they're trying to figure out how they're going to execute it, I think. And so every time when you go to click on stuff there, it says, we're
in progress. Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
they give us a little bit of.
Yeah. So yeah, if you guys don't, who else going to the lunch and learn at noon? So everybody should have their hand raised because it's good, like really good stuff.
Yeah, it'll
Yep.
be fun, so.
Good answer.
I'll give you more.
Awesome. Tracy, you want to introduce?
Yeah, this is Amy Floyd.
Hi.
And you have them, Jeans, Molly, and
Becky.
I had a faster lab work this morning and barely had coffee. Yes, Karen.
Erica. Here.
Can I cut in for a second? Because I can't hear anything you guys are saying. I mean, it all sounds garbly. So I don't know if there's a way to hear better or if it just is what it is.
It might be your internet.
Nikki and Amanda,
Well,
can
Nikki
you
can't hear either.
What about us?
I mean, I can hear like Erica when she talks, but nobody else. I mean,
Okay.
it's like garbly, but it's fine if that's what it is.
It's similar, and like just from experience with this situation, it's not
Okay,
gonna
thank
change.
you. That's
'Cause
fine.
it's just,
That's
yeah,
fine.
it's so hard.
I can hear you guys great.
Lunch and learn more about the new HA of this.
Okay, and then next up, what do we got next up? We got Win, Make, Give. Okay. So one of our things here, I'll come up here maybe. Where's the microphone? Over here. Isn't that the microphone?
These are
Yeah, the microphones are here. So one of our things here at Thrive Life is obviously, you know, our theme is health, wealth, and fun. That I learned about probably, oh gosh, probably 6 or 7 years ago. I took the first series. And how many of you are familiar with the name Ben Kinney? Okay, so he was a big agent at KW. He actually went on to, he did a bunch of speaking, training, runs a huge team. And then he also now owns Place, which is a huge company that a lot of different brokerages, different agents are going to kind of have from a support standpoint. Anyways, big guy, big industry. He's always about giving back though. So he did this wealth series probably 6 or 7 years ago. And that was really when I started teaching it at KW, because it was such a phenomenal tool, was like how to basically go from an agent standpoint, how to create your personal budget, how to create your business budget. A lot of the things that I work with you guys one-on-one on, he's doing a lot of that, but in a really great format, and it takes it to a whole nother level. So if you're interested in doing something like that with a spouse, with a partner, on your own, it's got an amazing net worth tracker. It starts talking about how to invest in real estate, how to do all kinds of things for real estate agents. It's geared towards realtors. It's called Wealth 2.0. He just updated it. So if you go to this website, it's called winmakegive.com, because he's all about giving back and donating back and just donating aside. It's a free resource. It's podcasts along with a workbook and there's about 16 podcasts that go with this. So you can kind of take it to whatever level. It takes you basically from the beginning, from building that to all the way to how to the advanced stuff that's how I actually learned about the guy that we talked about with the taxes, how I've talked about with real estate taxes, like how we started working with Wealthability, and the guy that wrote Tax Free Wealth. He brings him on for one of the sessions. And so it's just an amazing tool and resource for free. So I want to put that out there to you guys. I also want to see who, if anybody, would be wanting to do it as a team or as a group, to do it like a once a week mastermind. We sit down, we listen to the podcast, we do the workbook, to see if that's something we would want to put it into the calendar. So kind of show of hands, if anybody would want to do that as a group.
Once a week?
It'd be like once a week, but it'd probably be for about 12 weeks. So I mean, it would be a decent commitment.
Yeah.
And so
There's one.
is it what?
Yeah.
No, it has nothing to do with lead generation or sales. This has to do with you building your personal finances, your business finances, and understanding money and how that all works. So it's a whole different, it's more on the wealth building side than anything. So
Would that be open to like thousands?
I think that'd be cool. Sure. Yeah. And so I don't know what format could look like, but I think we could definitely be open to, I just want to see if there's any interest in doing it, because it would be, another thing that we need to put on. I don't want one person, to show up or I do this and never shows up. I'm like, no, here today. But I think it's an amazing tool, and I would love, that it's changed the trajectory of Eric in my life, as far as what we've done and whatnot. So I think it could be a really awesome tool. So if you guys have the interest in it, we'll start thinking about it and putting that out there to see what that could look like. So would you guys rather do it in person, or would you rather do it like over a Zoom call?
In person.
Okay.
It's
All right.
nice to have the Zoom option available, just because sometimes my schedule is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But, I would love to.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. All righty. Hi, guys. Oh, you got your winter warmth going on there, buddy. We missed you. Welcome back. All right, let's keep rocking and rolling. All right, market stats. So we've got some interesting stuff going on right now. So we've got biggest things I wanted to do, and Natalie and I were talking about this yesterday, is taking some of this information and being able to put this into maybe some kind of a format where you guys can have a graphic that you can put on social media, right? Because one of the things I'm a fan of telling stories, right? I want the information to tell a story. And when people just post out, here's this week's market stats, the general public has no idea what that means. Like, in relativity to what? Like, okay, cool, there's 85 houses on the market. What does that even mean, right? So the goal that we really need to start looking at is, how do we tell a story behind what's happening in the market? Okay. So what we're going to be doing is creating a graphic behind a couple of these, and then giving you a script if you want to use it, to do like a voiceover, to do a video with it. The goal is we need to be out there on social media. So everything that I'm on all kinds of Zooms every week with EXP, and I would encourage you guys to jump on those as well. You guys are always welcome to, but they're always like, get consistent, get intentional about your social media, right? So what does that look like? Really, your job is to be the most valuable person to your audience. Why are they gonna listen to Andrew? Why are they gonna listen to Tracy? Why are they gonna listen to Julie? You know, like, what are you giving them? And how are you going to do something that's like maybe fixing a problem or getting them to understand something at a higher level? So we're gonna take a few of these things once a week and give it in a graph format or something, some kind of a thing you can post up, and then you can be adding to it. And I would encourage you to do video with that or some kind of a voiceover with that. Some kind of, anything that you can do to kind of just get some engagement with it. So throwing stuff up there and hoping somebody reads it. It's like, yay, the goal is engagement in social media. So what we want to look at with this, I'm looking at this going, okay, I want you guys to understand year over year, because this is a great tool for you guys to look at. The average sold price in Chico, single family residence right here. What this is telling us is that the average is down 5.2%. Okay. That's what the average is right now for February over February, year over year numbers. Okay. The median sales price is down 9.7%. So again, these are always sent out to you guys, and the data is always on the second sheet. It's always you get the graph, and then you get all the data behind it. So I just like to point those two things out there. They're also right there on that front graph. All right, next slide. Okay, year over year on median price. So median price, this is an interesting one. If you guys look at what's for sale, where's the little thingy? Oh, it doesn't work. Does it work? Oh, I gotta turn it on, huh? That would help. You gotta help me with this stuff. I can. Oh, it doesn't work on the TV. Okay. So when you look at that, the median price for what's for sale is at 4.7% higher. What's under contract is right at, and then what's sold is a negative number. So what we're looking at, and you'll see this on a couple of the other slides that we start looking at, is how many days on market when we're looking at things that are sitting out there. Even though we have really low inventory, we have some stuff that's just sitting out there, and it's probably way overpriced because the stuff that's coming on, some of that stuff's getting gobbled up pretty quickly. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, supply and demand. This is an interesting one here. So I want you guys to look at in February, in the whole month of February, we had on average the houses that were for sale were on 114 days on the market on average. The houses that were listed for sale. The houses that went under contract were 39 days on the market, and the houses that were sold were 49 days on the market. The houses that went off the market were 83 days on the market. So what that's telling us, again, I want you guys looking at, when you're looking for some opportunity, there's going to be some opportunity there for either we've got motivated sellers or we don't have motivated sellers that are sitting out there, right? So either their agents are, because a lot of the times agents' egos get attached to this price that they give them. And then they're like, nope, I told you it's going to be what it is. We're going to be fine. It's like, well, if it's sitting out there for 100 days, clearly the market's telling us differently. Like if it's priced well, we're still seeing some multiple offers on certain types of properties in certain areas. And so with the limited inventory, if it's priced well, they are selling relatively quicker, much quicker, obviously, than anything that's sitting out there. So I think it's really important to be looking at what is out there, who the agents are, really understanding, like, has that agent set that client up for just failure? You know, to be like, hey, you went 900 for that. It's like, nope, we're just going to dig our heels in. We're going to sit here until it sells. Like there's not much inventory out there. No one's biting at that price, right? I think there's a really big opportunity right now for expired canceled listings because they're looking for someone to move them forward with what their goals are. Interesting thing on this one, and you guys won't see it on the graph, but there was only 38 new listings came on the market in February. Compared to, what do we think last February was? 38. 105. 105 last February. And we had 38 this February. Last month, January was 47 and December was 38. So what is that telling us? What's the story that's telling us right now?
People aren't moving.
What's that?
I said people aren't moving.
Well, people aren't moving. From a listing standpoint, we've talked about that quite a bit. You know, that the people they're not moving around as much as they would, right? Because they've got good interest rates or whatnot. Right. So we have 38 new properties, and we had under contract. How many went under contract in February? 54. Okay, so what's that do? Next slide. This is our sales absorption. So when we're looking at this, it's really telling us like how many of the properties, or the percentage of properties that went under contract versus the percentage that actually sold. So only 38% of the properties that were listed for sale went under contract. But what we're looking at when we're even looking at the month supply of inventory, that's continuing to go down significantly because obviously we're having more properties going under contract than we're having pending. What's our current right now number of units that are on the market? You know, it's like 89, yeah, as of this morning. I mean, it could have changed a little bit. But that's, again, so we're going into this other funky market. It's not quite what we had last year. So I want you guys looking at, when we're looking at how many homes actually closed last month, we had 43 properties actually closed in Chico, single family, versus last February was 73. So I think that we just got to pay attention to that there's less opportunities out there for stuff. So we've got to be mastering our skills at a high level. We're going to talk about that a little bit more today. I think it's all knowing all your loan products, knowing how to get people into contracts, knowing, you know, really how do we keep them in contracts? Like, how do we keep them, like, looking at their personality profiles, and how do we kind of bulletproof some of our transactions so that we make sure that we're not canceling escrows, and we make sure they're in the right mindset to actually buy, and what that's looking like, and having those right conversations. So, you know, is there business happening out there? Absolutely. So I think the biggest thing for everybody in this room to look at is this is a market where we get to take market share, or we get out of the market. That's it. And I mean, Becky and I, we've been here, I mean, long time, a long time, longer than we should say. But we went through that market way back when, you know, and I mean, how many people got out of the market in 2007, 8, 9? A ton. And what did that leave us? The opportunity that we're there to like grind and put your head down and go to work. It gave us the opportunity to take over market share, which was awesome. So the more that we hone our skills in, our systems in, and really deliver a huge amount of customer service and be that resource for our clients, that's really where we'll be able to take that market share back in this market. So there's a lot of agents who just don't want to work. They're used to having that low hanging fruit, and they're like, nobody's calling me anymore. I'm like, yep, like that market dried up. Now we got to go to work, you know, and put some right systems in place. So any thoughts or anything around any of that? You're always good for stats. Any thoughts?
Last month when I done it, like I dug into, you know, like playing around with the stats. The market's like really split between the higher price homes, like last month's ones, the under median sales price, under median list price. The market was consistent with the previous year. All of the drop in activity was at the higher price points.
Yep. Yeah, but there's been some higher price point stuff that's been coming on lately.
Yeah,
That's been
same.
getting gobbled up pretty quickly, where I've been a little bit surprised. Yeah, high five. Good job. Good job. But good houses that are priced well are still moving, you know, because if people have equity in their homes, or they're moving from another area where they have a higher price point, you know, that equity here is transferring over, and it's not, the interest rates aren't a concern for a lot of those
I
people.
think this stuff's good as well to show buyers where they're like, oh, there's going to be a crash coming. What we're seeing is like, at the same time, we're seeing like a tightening up of drop off in demand. We're seeing the drop off in supply because people are not selling to buy the next house. So like, there can't be a crash while like demand and supply are like staying like locked with each other.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that's a perfect thing to be putting into your buyer presentation, so that we're setting them up with the right expectations of what the market is that they're in.
I always tell my clients, it's like, look, you want to sit on the market and look pretty, or you want to get on the market and sell. So that I like that little tagline, because they're like, yeah, okay, you know,
Yep,
we can start at that price, or we can go with this price.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
it works.
Yeah, I love it.
And even when people call me as a lender, when they're talking about, what can I do? Because a lot of times they'll call before they want to put the house in the market, you know, what can I afford, you know, and they talk about that stuff. I always say, well, you know, right now, because one of the things that they always say, and I always say, go talk to your agent about this, but they're, well, right now, you know, my house looks like crap. They're like, it looks terrible out there, you know, there's no grass growing and the trees aren't blooming or whatever. And I'm just like, go talk to your agent about that, because I can tell you right now, it doesn't matter. Exactly. So I mean, I'm always like pushing back to you guys, go talk to your agent about that, because right now there's less houses. Go, you know, get yourself out there. So yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, site unseen, purchase property, hold harmless agreement. So this is a EXP form. So I know that there's been a few agents lately that have some clients maybe out of town, out of state that are looking at things. So this is, if you guys are having any clients that are purchasing sight unseen, we're going to encourage you to use this form just to protect yourself. So it's basically, you know, trying to keep us out of any kind of illegal situation so that we're not saying, oh yeah, this is great. We did a video tour and they were all excited and they checked off and we got the deal and we're done. And then it comes back to bite you. They come here and realize there was all kinds of stuff that they didn't realize. So sight unseen is never a great idea, but it does happen every once in a while. And yeah, sometimes we think the video piece is a great, there's no substitute for standing in that room and looking at, you know, high and low, and we can do our due diligence as much as we possibly can. But this is a great tool. Just if you guys need this, I think Nikki found this for us, so thank you. And so just if you guys need that, that is in the California thing on the forms, or is it?
Yeah, it's under forms, but I also emailed it to everyone, so.
Okay.
Are people letting like sellers accept offers? I haven't seen, or are people also thoughts?
Say that again.
Like when you're representing the seller, are you even accepting or like recommending to the seller to accept?
Yeah, I mean, I guess sometimes they're like, oh, they're coming from Barry this weekend. I'm like, oh, yeah. I mean, it's more if I've got multiple offers. That's not the one I'm going for. Then maybe, you know, put it as backup.
There's also the other form that came out, for, like,
NCA.
non-contingent.
NCA, yeah.
Yes.
They're making
and
us
so
use it like an MCS, even if
for
you know,
everything.
even if your buyer's writing a contingent offer or the seller's not accepting a non-contingent offer,
It's required.
they've made it required.
Okay, well, then we should look into that one.
NC.
It's
NCLAA.
Oh,
it's a non-contingent offer advisory.
Oh, is that like if you're removing all your contingency at a time? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It's
they
required.
put it on as required on mine. I was like, they had all of the contingencies in place. It's required, like the same as an MCA.
Okay.
I talked to the broker.
Okay.
And I don't understand why you're doing it on conventional. Right now, that's what we're doing.
Okay.
Until we.
And maybe that was probably like a little bit, I would assume it's probably a little bit, just thinking with my broker hat on, is that it took them a while to create the form last probably February, March, April, May, June, when everybody was just like, I'll give you my firstborn child for the house, you know, like, and so, and then there was probably a lot of legal situations that came out of that because we're already hearing that. I heard that on the news the other day. That people are like, oh, we overpaid and we were, you know, we gave too much, and it's like, well, you said like, this is what market you were in, and this is what I mean. I don't feel bad for people like that, but I'm sure it took a while for CAR to create that form, and then it's probably a few months too late now. It's kind
It
of
just needs to be folded into the MCA. It doesn't
Yeah.
need to be too separate.
okay. We'll go over that next month then. I'll put that on for next month for sure. Okay, all right, disc. So I'm going to teach a little bit on the disc, and I realize that some of you guys are not familiar with the disc. Raise your hands. How many people are familiar with the disc? Okay, how many people have never heard of the disc? Okay, how many people are masters of the disc? Good understanding of the disc? Okay, who in this room thinks they're a D? They lead with their D. You don't, she does.
Right. I still like to think of it. Yeah.
You get half of the this tool, probably 10, 15 years ago. It was life changing for me. And why it was life changing is because this is probably the biggest statement here. It says, who are you? Why you do what you do? And oh, why do other people drive us crazy? Right? Because I was just like, oh my God, they frustrate me so bad. Because they're like, I am, can you guys guess what I am? If you guys that know this, what am I? D. Off the charts D. Do I have any S? I have no S. Like none. It's not, I don't even think they exist. But why this is such an important thing is to understand ourselves, and then also to be able to understand each other. And that doesn't just happen in business, but even in our personal relationships, our kids, and then in this space, looking at it with our clients, right? So when we're looking at personality profiles and personality traits, I think it's really important to not be like, Andrew's a blah, 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 and this is exactly how it is. Well, it's also, this is probably about a 2-day course. So I'm gonna give this to you in 20 minutes, and then I think it'd be really cool if we actually like did another whole course on it, brought somebody in for it, because it literally, once you start understanding it, and then you start seeing how people show up, you realize, oh, that person's not being demanding, that's just how that's how they operate, right? Or they just don't like change, so this is how they operate. So much of our engagement with our clients and our spouses or our kids or any relationships with friends or anything all have to do with like, how do we get along well with someone else that's not just like us, right? Like, because if you've got 2 or 3 or 4 Ds in a room, can we make a decision very well? No, everyone's vying for power and for control, right? And they're like, let's go. You got to have a good mix of everybody. And the interesting part, as you realize, and we'll go through this, is that with these, you can have multiple different pieces of this personality profile. So we'll look at this, and a D is like a driver, demanding. I is more of like an inspirer. They talk a lot with their hands. We'll get through all these, go in a little bit more detail. And S is more steady and stable, and then a C is more like calculative, or like your accountant type of person. But you can have all 4 of those personality types, behavioral traits in your personality. And some will show up different when you're under pressure, and some will show up like different when you're in your natural state. And then you may lead with one versus the other, right? So I'm a very high D. I have a pretty high I, no S, and a midline C, right? So I lead with my D. That's how I show up. And so, but can I also sit in a room and do spreadsheets? Yeah, I can. Does it make me happy? Do I love it? No, it does not. But can I do that? Yes, I can. So all of us at different times are going to have these different personalities, and even depending on the role that you're playing, you may end up having to lead with one more. You may have to push yourself out of the comfort zone to get into one of your personality profiles versus the other. So we'll get into that a little bit here. So 4 basic styles here. So we've got D is the dominant driver, I is the influencing, inspiring, S is the stable and steady, and then C is compliant or correct. Okay. So there's not a perfect style. I think that's a really important one, because people kind of sometimes go, gosh, I'm not this. No, this is who you are, and everybody can be amazing at whatever. Like, that's how you were wired. That's how you were built. And that's what makes you comfortable. That's where you thrive in your personality type. But there is only a perfect way to communicate with each style, and you guys are going to start seeing this. So we're a blend of more than one style, so be very careful not to label someone just as one style. Like, I'm not just a D, right? Like, I definitely have a lot of I and a lot of C, and I wish I had more S, but I don't. So sorry. Like my kids. Like that is what she's my S. Elka's my S. And so we all like, and that's another really important thing to look at though too, is when you're working with somebody and partnering with somebody, it's important not to have 2 people of the exact same personality type, because you've got to have that yin and yang. You've got to have that other person that complements you. And you're like, so many people try to go, oh, I'm terrible at this, I need to get better at this. It's like, no, go be amazing at what you're good at, and you'll do 10 times more and higher to the stuff that you're not good at, right? Instead of being like, I got to work really hard because I'm really bad at that. No, go focus on what you're good at, hire the rest. Okay. So the disc will help you treat people the way that they want to be treated. How many of you guys have heard of mirroring and matching? Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's a sales technique that we are in a sales business, whether we realize that or not, right? So we are always selling ourselves. We are in a relationship business. So much of our engagement with people every day is how we treat other people, how they feel when they're around us, right? What does that feel like? How am I making you feel comfortable, or am I bowling over the top of you? Tracy's at a high S, and she's like, I don't know, it's my first time buying a house. I'm like, you're good, just sign it, it'll be great, you're gonna be good, let's go. You're like, right? Like, how many people are in that, right? So versus me taking the time and slowing my pace down and realize I'm going to talk at her pace, and I'm going to question her, help answer questions, not come in as a hot mess, not, if I said with somebody that's super organized, I'm going to come in very organized with stats and data and things like that. So I think it's really important that we understand these personality profiles of our clients as well in a sales situation, and how do we mirror and match them in our business to be able to get more business. So give me a D. picture's worth 1,000 words, tornado. Sometimes, how many of you guys know real estate agents that are a complete, like, this is their profile picture, right? Like, we're a tornado. They're coming in hot. They're like, let's get in, let's get out, let's move quickly, and let's get on to the next deal, right? So it's interesting. Yes, Amanda.
Oh, that's her.
Oh, that's you, okay. So 10% of the population, and I've even heard as low as 6%, but 6 to 10% of the population is a D. And so when we're in a sales industry, we think everyone's like us, right? Because this is who we end up surrounding ourselves with most of the day. We're like, everybody's like us because we're all high Ds and everybody's going 100 miles an hour. And then you're going to realize that with the S's actually make up about 60%. So when we're looking at our clients that are not realtors, right, that are out there buying homes, they are more in an S category, typically, not saying all of them, but that is a very dominant category that a lot of them are in. So 10% of the population, general D characteristics, they're dominant, they're direct, they're demanding, they're decisive, they're determined, they're problem solvers, they're doers, they're not talkers, they're defiant, and they're risk takers. So how many of you guys would say that that defines you in this room? Yeah, Amanda's iPhone, raise your hand, right? So much of this is recognizing that this is who I am, right? And can that be a turnoff for some people, right? And can that be something that also can be super inspiring to other people? Like, right? Because you're like, I want to lead that, I want that person to lead me because that's, you know, they know where they're going, they're ready to go. Like, I don't want to take any risks. Like, we'll let them all do that work. That's fine. That's so it's understanding that and recognizing that's how they're wired, right? And the self-starter. What does a D want? They want to win. That's probably one of the most important characteristics of a D. They like to plan for the future. They like new ideas, sometimes almost to a fault, because they get started with one and then they're like, and there's another bright and shiny, and there's another bright and shiny, and there's another bright and shiny. And some of you in this room, I know you, because I do that with you. I'm like, stop, put the rocks down. Right? So, and because that's how we are wired, like we're excited about new things, we're excited about new ideas. And that doesn't mean we always follow through with them, because our consistency usually isn't there. No, and you're not. That's the whole beauty of this, is there's nothing that's bad about this, right? This is just understanding this is who you are. There's nothing that says this is a good one, this is a bad one. Everyone has their strengths and their weaknesses in each category. Let's see. What's it not right now? What's that? No, I like results. I like to be my own boss. I like to move fast, and I like a challenge. And freedom probably is the biggest thing, because we want our own time and our own freedom. Right? What are their potential weaknesses? They overstep authority. That's a big one. They could have an argumentative attitude. They don't like routine at all.
I feel like you're watching a tennis match. Yeah.
I want to be like, Eric has no D. It is like right. So we learned that really early on in our relationship when we had to go to 3 stores to find a refrigerator. And I was like, does it make water and ice? It doesn't keep it cold. What your refrigerator looks like, just go buy one. So then I just learned to send him to the store and have him go, here's the 2 that I like. That one looks good. All right, let's box it up. Like that's, that's all I need. I didn't want to drive my kids around to 3 stores to find the right thing and then have them look at Consumer Reports. I could care less. Attempts too much at once. Yeah, causes anxiety in others. Possible. Critical and fault finding. Inattentive to details. And may resist participation as part of the team. So this is understanding that these are the things that don't necessarily help you, and when you have to be aware of how that shows up as a D. Okay, what's the greatest fear of a D? being taken advantage of. Okay, and then there's another one I would say is don't waste my time. Like if I'm a high D, don't waste my, I'm not gonna sit here and like hang out, like I got things to do, we're moving fast, we're cruising along, so don't waste my time. How to relate to a D. Okay, thanks. If I point out it.
I
then
think
you
it
just-
said when I go to the chat.
Oh, it does something, okay. Communicate briefly and to the point and minimize small talk. Ask what, not how questions. Avoid details. Respect their need for autonomy. Be clear about rules and expectations. Let them initiate. Show your competence. Stick to the topic. Show independence and eliminate time wasters. Okay, so if you're trying to connect with a D, like when you are calling a new client's calling you, understanding their personality profile is so important, because if you're going to show up with me and I'm like, hey, Becky, you know, I'm calling you because I want to, you know, get a loan, and you're like, hey, why don't you come to my office? I'm going to show you all the 14 loan products and we're going to go through this big binder. And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't have time. Yeah, like I don't have time for that. Like you're just, yeah. But I'm like, give me some things that are gonna make me move quickly, and then I know you've got my back, and you're like, I got this. This is what you need to do. Here's the 2 options I think are good for you. And I'm like, yes, that looks great. Let's do it. Write it up, you know. And then you handle a lot of the stuff. I don't want to be bogged down by details, right? So looking at that, I mean, I just was on the phone yesterday with somebody that has a $1.1 million listing. And they chose one agent over another agent because they said one agent came in, and this is a very high C client. They chose this one agent because he came in with all the detail, all the data, all the stuff, you know. And the other one was like, well, what do you want? It came in with just yeah, I sell a lot of houses. What is it you're looking for? What do you want to get out of your house? I was like, you're the agent, tell me, you know. So knowing that person, you just missed out on $1 million listing because you didn't tweak your presentation for the client. And that's such an important thing, is understanding how do we mirror and match that client for what they need. And this is understanding this at a high level. That making sense? Okay, suggestions for Ds. Before you can be in authority, you must first learn to be under authority. All right, how will I know you're a D? Picture's worth 1,000 words. They're the cheerleader. An I is the cheerleader. 25% of the population leads with their eye. Just remember, this isn't like you're not just one, right? So you have a dominant, everybody's got a dominant trait that they work off of. So 25% of the population is an eye. General eye characteristics: they're inspiring, they're influencing, they're impressionable, interesting, impressive, they sparkle and shine. They usually have a lot of that they show up. You know, the agents, I mean, I could name a few that are in our industry where you're like, they're a total high eye. They talk with their hands and they always wear sparkly and they're fun and they're bubbly and they're right. Like if you want to talk the epitome of an eye, it's Sherry. Yeah, Sherry Calvert now. Used to be Landis, but Calvert, something like that. I don't know. Anyway, she's awesome. But like, I remember the first time I ever talked to her, probably 15 years ago, I was like, this girl is so freaking fake, because she was like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I was like, who is this? And then I got to know her, and I'm like, she's like the best human being in the whole wide world. And that is just who she is at her complete core, is this person that just wants to love on you and just like so excited. She's about all eyes. They're involved, they're illogical sometimes, enthusiastic, trusting, and a short attention span. They're flashy, classy attire. They can be. Okay. And they're talkative and animated. What does an I want? They want to be liked more than anything. Okay, that's a huge thing for them. They like to express their ideas and feelings. Feelings being a big one. They like being in front of a group. They love surprises. They like lots of fun, and they like recognition. They love people. They just love people, right? What are their potential weaknesses? So they're inattentive to detail because they don't care. They're just about like, let's go have a good time. We're not worried about how we're going to get there. They listen when it's convenient. So that's an important one to learn. So how many times have you had a client that's a high I that's like, I think I've told them that like 4 times, you know? And so you're like, how do I get this message across to them? Because they're like, they're thinking about 14 other things. They're thinking about what color the wallpaper is going to be, and how are they going to rearrange their furniture. That's what they're doing right now. They're not listening to what you need. They can sometimes oversell, and because they want you to like them so much that they'll oversell things. They act impulsively. Difficult to plan and estimate time. More concerned with popularity than tangible results. So how many of you guys would say you have a little bit of I in you as well? Yeah, so I used to be ID, and then like when I became an OP, I was at my switched more to DI. Like, so it's kind of an interesting, like when you start getting yourself into different roles, like when you have to step up into a leadership role, how your personality has to change, because then you take on more responsibility, or who you are, in your 20s versus when you're a parent. It's totally different.
One of the tests is like, it gives two scales: natural style and adaptive.
Yep,
Adaptive style.
yeah, the adapted style. So the adapted style is who you are under pressure. Like, how are you going to show up? What's going to come out? And then your natural style, or I'm sorry, your natural style is more who you are under pressure. Your adapted style is how can you kind of become a chameleon in the room? Okay. So an I's greatest fear is rejection. So that's the one thing for a lot of agents that are I's, they can't get past like, oh, I've heard a no. I'm like, I'm done for the day. I don't want to make any more phone calls. They rejected me, where a D is just gonna be like, next, let's go. So I think understanding that side of your personality to realize, like, if you are in a sales role, that is part of sales, is hearing no's, right? So you go, gosh, why are they so much more successful? Or why can they sit and make so many more phone calls or door knock so many more times? Well, they're like, I'm okay with it, with a no. Like, it's not going to bother me. An I, that would be really difficult for an I. Or something even just to be aware of if you're a high I, that you're like, it doesn't mean, like no just means next. So getting through that. How do you relate to an I? Be relaxed and sociable. Let them talk. So if you're a high I and you're talking to a high I client, don't keep competing for the floor. Let them talk, right? Let them be animated. Let them get excited. It's hard if you're a high I to not go into that role with them, though. So just being aware of that. Keeping the conversation light. Suggest what action they should take, because a lot of them aren't going to take action because they're a high I. Provide details in writing. That's a really important one. Don't talk about them, but provide them in writing so that you guys know what the expectations are going to be, because everybody forgets them or they're on to the next thing. Provide an incentive for them to take on a task and give them public recognition. Use humor, and then freedom from control and detail, and ask who, not what questions. Okay, because they're all about people and about relationships. And then use stories about others to convince them. So they like to relate. It's a relatable personality profile. And then help them please others. Suggestions for I's. So it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. How will you know we kind of just went through that. How will I know you? Kind of going through those items there. So an S here, an S is very much stable, steady. And I would say it's higher than that. 30 to 35% is probably more like 60% of the population that will lead with their S. So general S characteristics are supportive, stable, steady, sweet, status quo, shy, can't say no, good listener, team player, possessive, understanding, friendly. So when we're looking at that, we're thinking about, what do we do for a living? What do we do for a living, you guys?
Engage.
Okay.
And so,
What do we're looking at in the client standpoint? Like, what do we help them do? Make decisions, but they're also, we help people move, right? Like we help them move. Is moving one of the most biggest, like when you're looking at that list of what are the biggest stressors ever in life, right? So when we're looking at that, a move can be right up there with divorce, major trauma, death, all those kind of things. Like that can cause that much. And when you're looking at how many people lead with an S personality of being steady and stable, what's the biggest thing they don't like? Change. And what are we doing? We're like ripping their world from underneath them, their home, their safe space, all of that, and then putting them into another safe space, hopefully, right? But in the middle of that, this big cloud of like, oh my gosh, of just change and scary and everything else. So when we're looking at that, if we show up to an S and we are a hot mess, or we're not following through with things, or we're not making them feel set like that this is going to be the smoothest transaction, where are they going to be feeling? Lost, scared, all of that stuff. So being able to slow ourselves down and have the system so that they know we've got it taken care of. They're like, Andrew's like, I got you. Here's how my plan is. Like, I've helped tons of homeowners, like, make this move. We're going to do this for you. I've got you. What are your biggest concerns? Talk to me about what's the biggest fear you're concerned about. Let me take care of that for you. It's being able to help them through that change, and you be the steady, stable that mirrors and matches them during this process. Okay. So they don't love this. So I think that's an important piece, is to realize that a good chunk of our clients are going to be this personality profile. Okay. All right. What does an S want? They want to be accepted. They like teamwork. They like sticking with what works. So if you've ever worked for like a boss or anything, and they're like, we're just going to go with what works. This is what works. Well, there it is. They're not a D that's a risk taker going, no, the market shifted, we need to shift with it. Right. They're like, this is what's always worked. We're going to stay steady and stable. They like harmony. They don't like chaos at all in their life. They like just things being kind of status quo and just going with the flow and staying, watching their Netflix and hanging out at home and being with their cats. And it's good. They like things to stay the same. They like, sorry, Tracy. I like kind of what's, and they like routine. What are their potential weaknesses? That they resist change, that it takes a long time for them to adjust to change. So when you've got a client that maybe it's taken a lot longer for them to make a decision, like God, I've shown them 30 houses. Well, then maybe they're not quite ready, or they're needing to warm up to this idea because they've been in their home for 40 years, and I mean, there's all these different things that can be playing a factor in it, where we're like, oh my God, I don't want to go show that person another house. Well, maybe we need to take a step back and look at who are they, and then how do we want to show up to them? Maybe it's more like, hey, Andrew, like, until you're ready, like when you're ready to go, maybe what we'll do is I'm going to send you the homes, and I want you to take a drive over there, look at the neighborhood, stand in front of the house, look at the house across the street, drive around to the back side of the house, see who's behind you, see if you love the neighborhood. And then if you still love that and you're excited about getting inside of it, then give me a call and we'll go take a look at it. What would that do for your showings?
A lot of less waste of time.
A lot of less waste of time. How many times we've driven up to the house and they go, oh, I hate this neighborhood. And you're like, well, I made an appointment and they left they left an hour ago, and we need to make sure that so there's ways that we can get them involved and get them moving forward and doing some things that aren't going to take a lot of your time. Okay. But because if you're a high D, you're like, what did we not want to do? Waste time. Like, you're like, oh my God, you just wasted my time, because we went and looked at this house you really have no desire to look at. And they're never going to buy anyways, right? Like we've all been in that mode, right? Or like, that person's never going to buy. And so I think it's important that we understand, though, that what they may need is totally different than how we may make a decision. So I think that's a really important piece there. It takes a long time to adjust to change. They hold a grudge. So just be aware of that. So that's an important one to look at when you've got an admin. A lot of admins will be high S's. So it's really important to have, if you've got an admin on your team, is that you're really having good communication with your admin so that there isn't this grudge holding happening, where they're like, oh, I just feel like I'm really frustrated because I've got this high D agent that I'm working with, and they're back here doing all the behind the scenes stuff, and they never have time for you, right? Like that happens all the time when I'm coaching people with admin. So I think that's a really important piece. Sensitive to criticism, difficult in establishing priorities. That's a big one for S's. They can't decide what is actually important to them and what's not important to them. And then they have trouble sharing their feelings. So just being aware of that. So just sometimes if you're a high I, you're all feeling, right? Like you're like, here we go. Like I'm wearing it all on my sleeve. S's, everything's on the inside. So knowing that, and sometimes they're the people that you're like, man, that person's really hard to read. I don't know how to quite read them. It's really interesting. So how many of you guys are thinking right now of somebody that's in your life that's a high S that may frustrate you because of you're a high D? Right? Like, and then you start realizing like, this is just how they're wired. So once you start understanding this, it gives you so much more permission to accept them as who they are and and then like you go, how can I meet them where they are versus they need to come over to where I am. Right? It's a really important skill as we kind of learn this and get through this. So S's greatest fear is loss of security. So as again, when we're looking at them changing homes, moving, they're losing that security of their home. And it's a big risk for them. So that's a bigger process and a bigger event for that to happen for a lot of people. Sometimes we just think that it's like another escrow, and they're like, oh my God, that was the most, that was one of the biggest things that ever happened in my life. And you're like, well, it's just something I do like every week, you know, and I think it's just important that we understand that that can be such a huge, what we do can be such a huge factor, you know, kind of tipping point in their timeline of their life of what we're helping them do to a different home. Okay, how to relate to an S, be friendly and supportive. Ask how, not what questions. Use evidence of benefit. So they need to know what the benefit's going to be for them to convince them. You need to give them a lot of details. Be patient when introducing change. And again, this is that mirror and matching. Display a sincere interest in them. Present ideas which require them to change how they do something in a non-threatening manner and give them time to adjust. So like, that's why that market we just came out of where it was like, okay, Karen, we got to put an offer in like tomorrow or like today in 3 hours, there's 14 offers. What do you want to do? You're like, I don't know. I don't want to do it. I don't know. It's too much. Right. Like, and I'm not saying you, I'm just saying like, as your clients, I had so many clients that were like, they couldn't make that decision because it was too much. Well, there most likely are a high S that couldn't do that. D is like, yeah, write the offer up. I don't even care if we see it. Let's take a look, you know, like, yeah, throw 50 grand more on it. I don't care. Let's make a move. Well, you're like, okay, I can do that all day long. An S is going to take a lot longer to convince that. They may have to lose a few and then understand what the market looks like. Yeah. Thank you. It's really interesting. Yeah. And that's your adaptive versus natural. Like this is what provide personal assurance and follow-up support. Help them understand how their actions will minimize risk. That's an important one. Like that, if they actually do this, this will help them. You know, so we got to walk them through that. And then never change their environment without asking. Okay, because being in a like when you're a high D, change has no problem. Like you're like, I can work from here, I can work from here, I can work from here, whatever it looks like. Asking them to change that because they're used to they come to work, they have their space. I'm just using like an admin, for example, like, and you're like, this is what they're used to, and then you're like, oh, sorry, oh, I didn't tell you we were moving. Sorry, I forgot. You know, and they're like, what? You know, I mean, like, so that kind of that can stress them out a lot. So, suggestions for S's: don't be afraid to say what part of no don't you understand. Okay, so that's like they're okay, like they need to be able to say no and not have to like justify themselves because they probably will not do it twice. Right? They're the people pleasers. Okay. So C is our last one here, and pictures worth 1,000 words. One way. They have one way to do it. Everything, right? Like this is the way we do it. This is how it looks. So 20 to 25% of the population leads with their C. C characteristics are they're cautious, calculating, competent, cognitive, contemplative, careful, cold, perfectionist, dresses the same, and accurate. Okay. So when you're looking at like, I'm gonna pick on you. You're my favorite. He's an awesome C, right? And Brittany, we've sat in counseling, no coaching. Counseling together. Gotta be nice to each other. But strengths that each of you have, and your strength comes from, I mean, you guys never could have created your farm and the systematic way to build the farm if you didn't have the high C, right? Like, and you're like, and that's the consistent, steady, all of those pieces there, which like, if I'm not good at that, and that's not one of my strengths, that's one of her strengths, is like, help me be consistent. Cause I'm like, oh, new idea. And she's like, oh, we haven't finished this one yet. And I'm like, okay, I gave you permission to tell me I can't do anything new. You know, I'm like, I have to tell myself, like, she has to actually be my gatekeeper for myself. Cause I know the things like I tell you guys to not pick up rocks. I pick up rocks all day long. And that's what gets you in trouble. Right. And I know myself well enough to go, I know I have to have a gatekeeper to be like, keep me on track with what I said I wanted to get done. right? Because she's a high S and C, and that's not necessarily my strength. And so when you have that yin and yang with each other, that's why sometimes it's hard to be an individual agent, because you're like, I'm struggling because all these things are so difficult for me. Like, like putting the database is so difficult. Well, you're probably a high D or I. Sitting there doing data entry sucks. It just does. Or being consistent in that. So even if you hire somebody 5 to 10 hours to do the things you suck at, like, and not that you suck at them, you're just like, that's not the thing I love doing. Like, I want to be out doing this. And I'm so good. If all I had to do was go do this, I'd be so happy. Right? Haven't we said that in our businesses like a ton of times? Like, God, if I didn't have to do all the marketing, and then I got to put flyers, I got to do this, and I got to do accounting, and it's too much out there. Well, then maybe you look to hire something 5 to 10 hours a week, and you go and do the things that you're really good at. You don't have to have a full-time assistant. I'm terrible at the paperwork. I've been a broker. I've done all that. I can do it. Do I love doing it? No. So go hire to your strength. You do your strengths and hire to your weaknesses. So a C wants, no, they want to be right. Okay, that's a really important thing for a C. They like to know what's expected. They like an established pattern. They like clear instructions. They like finishing what they started. And they like organizing things. So what are their potential weaknesses? That they need to have clear-cut boundaries for people. They are bound by procedures and methods. So it's really hard to sometimes get a high C out of the way that they're used to doing it, because this is the way it's always worked, right? Like they're used to this set of rules and procedures and how it's going to go. They get bogged down in the details, so sometimes they don't move forward because they're so focused on being right and having it all be perfect that they have a hard time moving forward with certain things. They prefer not to verbalize their feelings. They will give in rather than argue. And so sometimes I remember having that with some of my MCAs, like where they'd be like, whatever. I'm like, no, I want you to tell me why I need this. It's like, we're not in conflict. I just need to understand more because I'm a high D and I'm like, I want to learn more about this. And they're like, okay, so I mean, but their natural state is just to give in and go, whatever. Yeah, whatever you want. But so just paying attention to that. But then they'll be pissy on the back end. Really pissy. and they'll affiliate with other people. Like they don't need to be around a lot of other people. It's not. And again, remembering, like, even if like you're gonna lead with one of these, but you may have parts of this. I mean, how many of you guys sometimes you can be super social and then the next day you're like, I just want to be in my jammies and not talk to anybody. Don't call me, don't do anything, right? Like, because you're like, I'm worn out. It's really interesting. So they don't like to delegate tasks because they want to do it all themselves because they feel like nobody else can do it as well as they can, typically. And they avoid involvement when threatened. They focus on their own tasks and accomplishments. So I think the key on this is just being really aware, you guys, of who you are as yourself. So you're understanding your own strengths and weaknesses and start to becoming aware of those. And then you go, okay, how do I start mirroring and matching somebody that's totally a different personality than me? And I'm not going to be frustrated because that guy wants to read every line of the contract, right? And that's what's going to make him feel safe and secure, right? Because he is a engineer and he's going to read every single line of that contract. I'm not going to sit as a D. I'm not going to sit there with him for 2 hours while he reads through that contract. Hey, Andrew, I know that you really like to look at all the details of everything. Would it be beneficial if I sent you over a copy of the contract ahead of time so you could read through it and ask any questions that you've got? Yes, great. I'm going to send that over to you and then we'll go through it together. Does that sound good? Yes. So then, I mean, that saves me an hour and a half, right? Of me not having to do that with him and be like, I got it. I got you, Andrew. Like, I got you. I know this whole contract inside and out. And you're like, uh-huh. Yeah, that's not making me feel happy, right? Like you're internally just going. So it's so important to know, like, that's how my personality is. Like, hey, I got you. I've been doing this for 20 years. I can handle this. Well, they don't believe you, and they need to be right. They need to know exactly what they're getting themselves into. Is that kind of starting to make sense on how some of these things are, why this is so important to your sales business, is really getting this at a high level and understanding this at a high level. Anybody on Zoom have any questions so far? No. What do you think you are? Pop off Zoom. Pop off mute.
Who are you talking to? Hi, Erica.
I miss you.
I miss you. I'm a S and a C.
What about you, Nikki?
Anything that deals with sensitivity, that's probably me. Getting her feelings hurt. I'm working on it.
Yes, I love it. No, it's just it's you stay in your strength, right? Like, so that's such a key thing that we always have been taught is I'm working on that. I got to get better at that. No, it's so much about you understanding being good with who you are. Like, that is who you are. There's nothing wrong with who you are and how you're wired. It's just understanding it and understanding how that can benefit you and how that can be a potential weakness for you. And then understand, how do I then communicate or really understand a little bit better with somebody who may be a high D or a high I. You know, you've got a lot of other personalities we're having to deal with in this industry. And so instead of being like, that person's crazy or that other agent's a total B, you know, it's like, no, maybe they're just a high D and they need to be communicated with differently. Like, my communication style isn't working with that agent's communication style. What could we do to have a better communication style to get the end results? Like, let's look at that. So,
Well, and I think, like you said, I mean, you could dig into this because, like, you scare me and you're a D. And that's, I mean it in a nice way, but like, it's terrifying sometimes. But that's okay. I mean, I love you. But it pushes me, but it's also very, it's just something to learn because it's not my nature to be like, okay, here's what we're doing. I mean, I can do that with my kids all day long, but with a client, it's kind of scary. And I think it's because I'm just new into this and I don't want to piss anybody off. And so, because I don't have clients that I can afford to lose right now. So, you know, but this is wonderful. Thank you.
well, and I think to that point, like, you know, I don't think it's like, when I look at myself, I'm like, that's the thing I want to come off as the least, but that's how I'm wired. I'm very direct, I'm very driven, but I'm also like, I will go to battle for you all day long, right? Like, for your goals and for you to hit what you want to do. And because I do care more than anything about you hitting your goals, right? And so I'm like, that part of me is like, yes, I have to be direct. This is how I'm wired, right? Because I'm like, yes, I know where I can see it. We can just put a plan together and you just got to go execute it. Let's go, you know? And you're like, oh my gosh, it's scary. And so it's important though, when you're looking at, like, even thinking back on some of the clients that you had particularly, you know, where you're like, man, they're just so, they're hard, you know, they're hard clients. They're hard to be around, or they may be a little bit more of a high D, right? And so we talked about, like, where I go, don't be upset about how they're showing up. It's more like, this is how they're wired. This is how they need to be communicated with. And we've got to match that, because our style, you know, Nikki's style is more like, hey, let's just all be friends. And I mean, you know, she's so sweet, and let's be here, you know, let's do this deal and whatever works. And I'm like, and we're going to follow that up with some systems and some processes and some directness that they need to make sure that they're going to get from you what they need from you, right? And so much of that is that mirroring and matching piece that you're doing. And you can have the same presentation to your buyers and your sellers. You're just picking things out, right? Like, you're like, oh, I'm not going to go through that whole thing with somebody that's a high D. With a high C, I might go through and I might put more stats in. I might put a copy of the contract in. I might think a little bit differently, versus if I'm just looking with somebody that's a high D that's like, hey, I just saw this house and I want to write an offer on it. You're like, all right, let's write an offer. You know, like, okay, that works too. So you've got to be okay with that. Whereas an S, if I was an S and I got that call, I might be like, well, are you sure you don't want to look at a few more houses? And they're like, no, I just told you I want to write an offer on that house. You know, and so we can almost sabotage some of our sales in that way if we're not mirroring and matching the clients at what they're needing and how the speed they need to go at. So, all right. Can you poke me forward? What's their greatest fear? Their greatest fear is criticism. Okay, so just being aware of that. How do we relate to a C? We be prepared. We provide straight pros and cons. We support ideas with accurate data, not like if we're a high D, we're just like, it's going to be awesome. And I heard this stat once, you know, they want to see accurate data. They want it printed out. They want to see exactly what's going on. They don't want any surprises. They want a step-by-step approach to a goal. If they're green, be as specific as possible. If you're disagreeing, disagree with facts, not the person. Okay. Be prepared to provide many explanations in a patient, persistent, and diplomatic manner. Minimize small talk. Ask why, not what questions, and avoid violating their standards. Provide feedback and direction, and don't be vague. Okay, so like some of us that are high I's, we're like, it's gonna be great. And then high C is like, nope, like that doesn't work for me at all, you know? So you've got to tell them why it's gonna be great. Just, and know that they will want to double check everything you do. So if you give them a stat, they're gonna double check it. Just laughing at it. So, all right. Suggestions for C's. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So that's really, you know, when you're looking at these, the activities here, again, when you're looking at D, they're outgoing. Their activities are task driven, and their activities are people driven. S's are people driven, and C's are task driven. So just, that's a really basic slide there that kind of helps all that, kind of put that in. So let's kind of talk about any ahas that came out of that.
Just thinking about our like listing and buyer presentations, and then like realizing like we've been doing like really well with them, and some of the stuff that you mentioned like really kind of resonates, like, okay, that's why that person responded so well to that. Like, you know, we've got just like things that we're doing, like we did the listing presentation. I think Brittany had like spoke to the first, and she was like, you're gonna need to give them like a full stats thing. And we like hammered them on it. Like it was like the whole thing was like so detailed, like here's what's gonna happen. And it ended up that we're supposed to interview multiple agents. They just called us back and they're like, no, like, you guys are all over it.
Yeah.
So, and it was just kind of, yeah.
Well, and some of that can be done in your pre-listing questionnaire, right? Like when you're asking questions around, you can start asking questions and tweaking your presentation around the questions you ask in your pre-listing questionnaire, you know, to talk just a little bit more. Like, great, what do you do for work? And, you know, what is motivating you to move? You're going to find out some answers when you start hearing, and now that you know some of this stuff, when you start listening to the answers, you're like, oh, that's a D, or
Yeah.
oh, that's a total C.
You know, when they're like, we're interviewing multiple agents and we need time to make a decision.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or,
I don't know.
you're reading and your staging was phenomenal. Well, that's an I. Okay, then I'm not gonna go in and bring stats. I'm gonna be like, we're gonna make it colorful, and we're gonna throw a party, and it's gonna be awesome. We're gonna go, you're like, you know, so it's really, and I say that jokingly, because for me to be a chameleon of that is really hard for me, because I'm like, I always like, I'm authentic, this is who I am. But in order to be in sales and be really good, you've got to be able to meet them where they are. And that's where you'll see your sales and your conversion rates, just like you're saying, go through the roof, because you picked up on that. You're like, they need stats, like, let's go. So I think I found out why I hate to do presentations great well. And I think so much of it is like, we're not doing you've got the presentation, right? But it's building rapport. You're never like, when you're looking to try to get people, you're not doing this like here's what it looks like. This is who we are. And if I've got a C client, then I've got that information there, but I'm not showing up like one agent that we used to have at KW. I mean, their listing binder was like this big, and they go and they drop this thing off the night before. And I'm like, no one's going to read that. Like, nobody's reading that. Like, we've got to understand that. And even, you know, I think it's also important to look at like your generational stuff. Like if you're working with somebody that's in their 20s and 30s, they're all online. Everything's digital. Everything needs to move fast. Everything needs to be bright and shiny, you know, versus somebody that's 70. We have to walk over, we have to hand do everything. We're going to write, you know, we're going to be spending an hour and a half. Elka and I did, and Elka more than I did, thank God, with one of our clients recently. And we probably spent how many hours? 4 or 5 hours signing paperwork with her. Probably.
At least.
Going over
because we had 2 transactions.
Yes. So, but everything was handwritten, printed out. And that's how she wanted it, right? So I think so much, and she just fell in love with us because but I knew I had to, we had an hour with her, I had to plan 2, because it was going to take longer and I couldn't rush her. I had to come in calm. I had to come in like, we've got time for you, Bonnie. Like, what can we do? How are you doing today? Yeah, how's the dog today? Good. Yeah. And but I mean, I like mentally when I'm in the car, I'm like, you know, if I've been going, I have to like mentally slow myself down for that.
Yeah.
Versus like my other clients, I'm like, yeah, all right, I'll see you in 2 minutes. All right, see you there. Okay, bye. Hey, here's keys. Happy, yay, good. Okay, bye. So just, it's really key as you look at this. So give me some other ahas that have come out of this, just even from some recent transactions or even relationships you're looking at right now that are in your own family that you're like, oh my God, that person drives me insane. And now I kind of can see that a little bit.
It's a high
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah. See, he comes with facts and figures. He's like, here, look at it. This is who I am.
I couldn't remember what it said it's been a while.
Yeah, you have no eye in you at all.
No,
Like,
I was like-
no, not at all. Like, but yeah, you're seeing, you've been adapted. Yeah, it's a little bit more adapted on higher level. But yeah, so I mean, but this is what's cool when you guys take these. So if you can see, he's actually like pretty equal in his D and his S, right? So that also helps him be direct and make the decisions and do those things that he needs to do. But he also likes a steady, stable. He wants it consistent. He wants it all. He wants it right. You know, he's not going to just throw it out there and do it. And it's awesome when you start learning that and then start learning that of like, you know, anybody that you're in business with, like, if I'm like, oh, I know Natalie, she knows my stuff. She doesn't get frustrated with me anymore. She probably used to really get frustrated with me a lot. We worked together for like 10 years, but you know, she's like, I know you well enough now. Like, okay, like, you know, and she can roll with it where she's like, okay, Erica. And then and I can tell like the tone of her voice, like, oh, am I doing it again? She's like, but it's good because we know each other so well that she doesn't get frustrated with me. I don't get frustrated with her. But we have totally different personality types, but it works really well together. So any other ahas?
I try and send, especially if I haven't met them before, I try and listen and talking to them on the phone. They use statements like, I feel like, or I think, then that clues me in enough to be like, okay, someone that, you know, talks like, oh, if I feel like this, then I was, you know, sharing what, you know, then you're like, they're probably more of like that than someone who's just like, I think this, and then like, okay, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I've already researched all of this. I know all the need and they're coming in hot. What are they gonna be? Yeah.
Just to give me an idea, especially if I don't know them yet,
Mhm.
and then some questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Was this helpful?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. All right, well, let's move it on here.
I just wanted to show you guys really quick because I've had a few questions about like the Zoom links and what classes are going on. So if you go to thriveinfo.net and then just click on the local event calendar, there's the link there to our Google Calendar, and you can actually add this to your Google Calendar. Down here in the right-hand corner, you can just add that, and it's gonna pop up with all of the dates, times. If there is a Zoom link, it'll be in the description. So I just wanted to show you guys that really quick. And then also, we've had a few people needing to get a hold of the broker. The best place is through Workplace Chat, and that's just an app that you can get on your phone, and they're on that all day, every day. So just you can message them through there. I think you can call them through there, FaceTime, do all that fun stuff. So
Just go right into the world.
yep, that's another great way. Yes. Yep. So just a reminder that that's there for you as a resource.
Okay, we got save the dates. We've got P&L today from 11:30 to 12. Then we're gonna walk over and do Fairways Lunch and Learn at 12. So if you guys have your P&Ls, do you want to talk at all about those, mastermind at all about those? That's gonna be 11:30 to 12 today. Friday, we've got scripts with Elka at 10 o'clock here in my office. On the 17th, Rick is doing his free coaching call. And then on Mondays, still doing the A to Z's of building a real estate team. If you guys are wanting to kind of do, if you ever did Ignite or Bold or any of those kind of things, that Rick coaches for Workman Success. And I know some of you guys have done this class and some of you haven't, but if you want to really take it from like very, very beginning basics of like how to build your real estate business, it's called Grant Rising Agent Mastery Program. And so him and Selena, they are the workman success coaches, and they're usually charging about $2,000 to $3,000 a month for their coaching. They offer it free to you guys. It's about probably a 10-week course, and it's got all the modules, and they go through all of those. They're going to start ramp up and again in about 2 weeks. So if you're like, I need a system on how to get all of my systems in place, it's phenomenal. I mean, I went through and looked at all of the tools. We taught it probably maybe about a year ago here, but having Rick, he coaches for their company, having him be able to do that for you guys is a phenomenal resource that you guys have. So I think it's $149 to join Workman Success for the year. So that's like discounted from like $1,500 or something like that. So you'll get all the downloadable like action items, like you'll learn how to like create your action plans, how to do your touch system. I mean, it get you through everything to go, what do I need to do today? Like, it's amazing. So I would highly suggest doing that. Once that comes out, we'll have some more information on that. The 21st, I'm going to be teaching how to get 5-star reviews, and that's really on, friend, this one's for buyers. So the title of that, we kind of just were trying to think of something catchy, but it's really how to create a customer experience while you're working with your buyers. Okay. And so what that looks like is so many agents don't have a system from like the moment that they meet their buyers to the moment that, to after they close their escrow. They're just like, okay, yeah, cool. We got them in escrow. And then I dumped it over to my TC, and then I've called them a couple times, and then we're like, yeah, we're at closing. And then, oh yeah, I got to run around to get a closing gift. It's about really creating that whole system behind the customer experience from the moment that they meet you. Like, what does that look like, and how are you communicating with them, and getting the buyer presentation, doing all that. Once you're in escrow, it's teaching you guys how to, like over communicate with them, send them. I mean, we send out like movie tickets. We send out like all kinds of fun things to keep them engaged. Yeah, just things that actually take so many phone calls and things off your plate, where it allows you for like the high eye to be in. I mean, like literally that when we built it with all the different people in mind, and so it's just basically how to create that customer experience. And then even after you close, like, we have a phone call that goes out, like reminding them about a home warranty and reminding them about this, reminding them about that. It's just really creating that customer experience so that you're not only they're having an amazing experience during the escrow, and they're having an amazing experience after to refer you business. So that's what that course will be on March 21st. If you guys would like to come to that, I highly encourage you. And this is an opportunity for you guys to invite other people from other companies, just to kind of see what some of our training looks like. So that's it. What do we got for haves and wants out there? Who's got some upcoming listings?
I have one on Keith Hopkins going. It's a 3-2. The garage has been converted. It's gonna come on about low 3s in the next couple weeks.
Okay.
I need to purchase another property. We're in the process of getting that together.
Right.
Okay.
And then we have that other listing he was talking about. It's in Sycamore Creek. It's 2,200 square feet. It has own solar, a pool. It's a 3-bedroom plus an office, and then 3 bathrooms, and it's a split open floor plan. It's for the kids.
What's that? Yeah.
I need help, guys. I'm nervous.
You already got, you just had one.
I feel like
It's like 800,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my husband got like the motion and then next year they already have their just set that we didn't go. So we really can't mess up the because it needs to go quick.
Yeah.
Is it, Sycamore Creek is over behind, off of,
It's all.
Yeah, Western.
Yeah.
okay, and so there's no land.
It's, well, no, it's actually a 1/4 acre.
And is there a pool?
Yeah, pool, fire pit.
Not so, but it's got this like massive like covered barrier thing,
Yeah.
with, like fun and outdoor TV and.
I may have some.
Oh, do another deal. So that's coming on.
Do you have the address on that?
Yes, 3097 Ray Creek. And then it's coming soon Thursday and I'll be on tour.
Does it face, the open lane?
No, it's if they
So
said
it
west.
doesn't.
It's like down the end of like,
It's
you know,
on-
River, it's like a.
I have a little fixer flipper over in Orville. Good opportunity. We're gonna reduce the price to 259-ish, but it's a huge lot, 2 parcels. You can easily add on a second unit in the back. So it's priced at 259. We're at 299 now. So hopefully getting that price reduction this afternoon. And then we have one in Ridgebrook that faces the creek, 2-story right at the end of the street. And excuse me, that one's not on Ridgebrook. That one's on behind the mall. I'm just having a horrible headache today.
Well, Ridgebrook doesn't have a creek.
Correct. It has the pond.
Close, it's
Yeah.
waterfront.
So it's Heritage Oaks all the way back down to the left and it faces the creek. It's 2-story, it's coming on at 449. It needs some love. It's got a decent sized backyard and we're getting ready for that one to come on.
What was the first one you were talking about?
That's on Myers. It's 2836 Myers Street in Orville. It's what do we call this? Chapman Heights.
Is that
It's
south?
Southside Heights.
South side?
Yeah.
Is it like?
It's a huge
FHA,
house.
like
We
2 or
will
3
go
months?
FHA because we're gonna do all the repairs. And we'll even go to
Okay.
VA. Yeah.
Okay.
Or do you want a 203K FHA
Is it single
That'd be
story?
good too. It's like 2,800 square feet. It could be a cool house.
Is it,
No,
um,
cardboard. Like a tenant thing. Those metal holes, yeah. Room to build. Yes.
Do you guys have any other upcoming listings?
I would launch you more that word, like 10 minutes. Everyone who wants to do that, the football mobile park. We have 2 owners there now. Some new ones, but they're up. Most of the ones that are remodeled are probably between 60 and 85,000.
There's
Pretty nice.
solar farm feeds
Yeah.
all the utilities there.
There's a solar farm there, but they really, Parks just do it as a separate thing.
Okay.
Their space rent's kind of high, 675. They got a couple of new ones that put in there for about 150,000. So, if someone can't afford Chico and they're like, hey, we want a home and there's a way to get in, I do have lenders that work out there and private financing. Someone can't afford Chico, maybe they want to own their first home, or ride the market for a while, exchange. They can get out there. There's a bunch of stuff. It's out there. Close to the hospital. Well, I mean, it's not like Utah, so it's pretty close to. It's a family park, but there's I know I bring it up because we have some elderly people out there. They're like, they're not even close to the hospital. So it's 15 minutes from Chico. Close. Oh, and if anybody wants to come out on the ridge, I know the weather's absolutely crazy out there because I almost got stuck out there the other day. I have a property that's been out there. It's listed for 320. We're probably going to drop to 17. So I'm rolling over. Yeah, kind of ride out there about 5 miles around the canyon. It's overlooking the ridge. It's 20 acres. There's like it's a shop that has a living area.
Vegetable garden set up.
Yeah. Or whatever. The definitely was the bridge. They're probably going to drop. Once the water gets better.
Anybody have any buyers?
Yes.
Yes. Lots of buyers? Good.
I have a buyer. Ooh. I have a
Mhm.
buyer in Oroville, and we're really looking into Clemo, and that is just because it's overbuilt. So basically, this client is an owner of what's called an adult residential facilities. So he's looking for basically larger houses. The one on Clemo has like 3,500 square feet, but we're just trying to see if the city has drawings of the floor plans, not just permits, but like actual drawings because it's a requirement for the state. But if you guys know of any that like somebody's thinking about selling in Oroville or something like that, just let me know because he's ready and it's not a typical residential purchase. It would be a corporate purchase. So it's a little bit, my opinion, easier. But yeah, we get that out there.
I'll call you. It's 7.5 acres. We're just getting ready to bring on. Um,
What? Yay. Okay, let me know.
Very, very littered with lots of cars and abandoned items. So it's a project. I'll call it one.
But it's a big house.
Yeah, which should be torn down and rebuilt or rehabbed from the foundation up.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, let me know.
It's got a commercial warehouse that you can drive semis through. I think it's 3 or 4 bays. So
Is it zone commercial now?
that's a good question. Yeah. I'll have to look.
Yeah, let me know. Thank you.
That's a good question too. Have to take into consideration all the stuff. Tractor trailers.
All right, anybody else? Buyers? Buyer. I'm just gonna throw it out there because I can't put, just so you guys know, they won't allow, I was in the board of director meeting last week and they won't let, if you guys are putting out like people that are like, hey, my handyman's awesome, or my contractor's awesome, or my window washer, if they're not an affiliate with the board, Alicia is removing them from those Facebook posts from here on out. So just letting you guys know, if you guys get it removed for any reason, that's what's happening, because she wants to promote the affiliates that are paying the affiliates with the board, which I get that 100%. So it's really not that expensive to be an affiliate, but if somebody wants to do that, that's an option. So in light of that, I'm gonna just throw this out there. My stepson, we have a huge dump trailer. That just made me think of it. So he's been working for us doing Elka, he did probably about 10 dump runs for our client on Earl. But he's a hard worker. He's about $20 an hour, has a dump trailer, and we'll do the dump runs for like $50, I think it is, and just works 10-hour days and he's fine. So, I mean, he's awesome. If you guys have anything like that, like you're needing some removal, trash removal, or like laying down bark, he's done a lot of that, like landscape updating for us. He's pretty good at that kind of stuff. Like, give him a pretty clear project that he can just go crush it. So, yeah. So if you guys need that, let me know. Anybody else have anything?
Actually, I do have that buyer that I'm gonna bring them. So there's 2 buyers. They're up to 1.1 million each. And they want something like Sawgrass. They liked the property on Alicia Simpkins one on the corner there. I forgot the name of that street out there. Schuster Homes.
They went north of town.
A city's drive, probably not, because they want the land, like an acre on one, and the other one might be okay if there's a pool. So
Whitehall Place is coming on Friday. Okay, 1.075.
you know Sherry's listing that just went in Durham. Did you see that one? That's gorgeous.
Yeah, this one I think it's gonna be nice. I'm gonna go take a look at it early tomorrow.
Okay.
Brandy's listening, but it's coming on live on Friday.
Whitehall.
Whitehall right by the park it's got a big pool and a grotto. It's 3 or 4 bedroom with a bonus room. Pretty even. That's what we're looking at. I don't know if I can afford it. So, it'll be interesting to see what the layout looks like. So I think it may be more space than we want. So, but anyways, I just found it. I don't know. But all right, anything else? Fired up, kids? Good. All right, scripts on Friday. We got P&L right now. Fairway lunch and learn at noon. Let's rock and roll. Perfect. Go take the market share. Good luck.